Hey, good morning, YouTube. This morning I'd like to talk to you about something that, well, when I came across it, it was really special to me. It really touched my heart, and I wanted to take the opportunity to share it with you. What I have right here is I have a sheet from, I don't know, I teach down at the local church, and I have this sheet, and it's made up, but we're not going to talk about Noah's flood too much, but we are going to talk about Genesis chapter 8, verse 22. And in Genesis chapter 8, verse 22, it's post-flood, and the Lord says to Noah, he says, "While the earth remaineth seed time and harvest, cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease." You know, the idea here is, why would God say anything at all if everything was the same? There must have been something that had changed for him to give him a little direction. And that's what this is really about. It's the idea that due to the flood, I believe that the earth, which used to be straight up and down with no tilt, compared to after the flood, the earth was tilted on a 23.5 degree tilt. And, I could come out and I could ask you the question, if we didn't have seasons before the flood, well, how did they know when it was a new year? It was the idea that, you could go out in January and plant corn and it would come up. It's just the idea is, where did you live on the earth, and would the temperatures support it? And that's what I suggest to you, that before the flood there was no tilt, and then after the flood there was a tilt. And this tilt brought about seasons. When you really sit back and you think about it, I know we live in a day where everybody believes that there's 4 seasons, and I'm not really denying that, but biblically speaking, there were 2 seasons. There was cold and heat, and summer and winter. And I believe this is really where men began to worship the sun. And because I think they got to a place where if they didn't plant in the right season, that they literally went hungry. So they depended on the sun very much to have their livelihood, and it was because of the seasons. But if we get back to that original question that I just asked a couple of minutes ago, and it was, how did they know when it was a new year? I mean, I thought about that for a while. One day, it just kind of hit me, and it was the idea that they were looking up in the heavens. And as they looked up in the heavens, there were the constellations. And the constellations would just, they would cycle around from time to time. And then every year, let's say, there's Orion, and the following year it would disappear. And as it went through the summer months, you didn't see it. And then the winter months came, and then guess what? You had Orion. It appeared again. So that's how they were actually counting years, or at least I believe that to be true. But our discussion today is that, if you were to go to a place like the 4th day of the creation story, you see that God, he put 2 great lights in the sky, the greater to rule the day and the lesser to rule the night. And they were what? For signs, seasons, days, and years. And the Bible said, and he made the stars also. Now listen to what I'm about to say. I'm going to tell you that I'm not into astrology. I don't believe in astrology like the modern world does. But you have to understand that God was the one who made the stars. He knows each one of them by name. He established them and ordained them. When you start talking about the stars, when when God established the stars in the heaven 6,000 years ago, he ordained them or established them to go on a particular path and to be at a certain place where he wanted them to be in the time that we live in. Okay? And on that note, I'm gonna switch this right now so you could see something else, because I really do. I believe that God, he put the story of salvation in the stars. And way back when, they didn't have books. So they needed something. So I believe they were looking up at the heavens. I believe they were watching things. And I believe that there was a story in the stars. So here, let me share this with you. And I hope it'll bless you, because I had a lot of fun with it when I discovered it. And I'm sure you're gonna, when you see what I'm about to say, it's gonna be pretty neat. Anyway, so from Adam to the flood, there's 10 names that appear in the Bible. The first 10 generations, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through each name and what each name means. Okay, so you got Adam, it means man. Seth means appointed. Enos means mortal. Canaan means sorrow. Mahalalel means the blessed God. Jared means shall come down. Enoch means teaching. Methuselah means his death shall bring. Lamech means despairing, and Noah means grace or comfort. You know, look, there's 2 Lamechs. There's one on Adam's side, and there's one on Seth's side, and there's one on Cain's side. They're 2 different people, okay? But when you go through here and you see each name and what it means, if we were to actually take this and put it into a sentence, it'll read like this. Man's appointed mortal sorrow, the blessed God shall come down, teaching his death shall bring the despairing comfort. You know what? That's the story of salvation. That's the first 10 names of the Bible. I'm sorry. I'm not an astrologer. Don't get me wrong, but I'm here to tell you, way back when, they were looking up at the heavens. They needed to know when it was a new year. They were watching the constellations. They say that Job, for instance, Job is, probably the oldest book in the Bible. And he talks about the Mezerith. And, it's basically the stars, the pattern of the constellations. It's the Mezerith. Okay? And, he talks about Orion and Pleiades, and he talks about a few of them. But the idea is that in the book of Job, so you find it in the book of Amos as well, you find these references. They are talking about the stars. It's what God made. God was the one who put them there. God was the one who ordained them. Look, if you were to take a look in modern times, and if you took a look at antiquities, for instance, if you went to the pyramids, and there's that thing in front of the Great Pyramid, and it's called what? The Sphinx. And if you were to take a look at it, just as an idea, just as a thought, that if you took what we call today Virgo, right, and you went all the way around the elliptic, you would end up at a place of Leo, the lion, okay? See, it's the story of salvation. It's Jesus Christ was born of a virgin, and when he returns again, he comes as the lion, as the tribe of Judah. So was the Sphinx pointing us? Wow, think about it. The Sphinx had a body of a lion and the face of a man. Well, maybe it was a woman. Maybe it was a picture of Mary. Maybe it was the virgin. Maybe it was the idea, I will put enmity between thee and the woman, between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise its heel. Is that what the Sphinx is really about? Maybe the world's lying to us. Imagine that. The story in the stars. Before there were books, they probably looked up at the heavens. Man's appointed mortal sorrow, the blessed God shall come down, teaching his death shall bring the despairing comfort. Hey, thanks a lot, YouTube. Enjoy it.